Yeah, she's swole.
How's it going, guys? SlaneyHD here today. We're going to be making a video on overclocking GPUs, graphics cards. Now, I made a overclocking video a few months back. The quality just wasn't up to par for what I want. So I decided to go ahead and make a new one. So let's jump right into it. Now, to overclock, you're going to want a set of tools. You're going to want some type of monitor, number one, to check on your temperatures, check on your loads, power consumption, etc. You want to be able to monitor your graphics cards for safety reasons, performance reasons, etc. So I recommend Tech Power Up right here, GPU-Z. It's free. It's awesome. It really is a great monitoring program for your GPU. Now, I'll link all these programs in the description. So let's take a quick look at Tech Power Up. So now you've got your graphics cards, and it'll show you what you've got here. So I've got SLI 960s, so I can click from either one to check on, all the specs, etc. But what we're going to be using are the sensors. Now, you've got your GPU clock, memory clock, temperature, fan speed, percentage and RPM, memory use, load, etc., etc. So what I like to do in overclocking is set it to, if you click on them, right, you can set them to have it be average, right? So show highest, lowest, etc. I'd like to do average. So let's set them all to average. Make sure we do this on both clocks, both cards. Right? Okay. And I've also got it to log to a file. So as you can see here, it'll log it to a text file. Very cool. Very useful. Now, the next thing you're going to need is an actual overclocking software. MSI After Burner is what I use. Very easy to use, relatively safe, good for new overclockers and even experienced overclockers. Now, what you see here is this is my base overclock, right? So if I reset it, this is the stock card, okay? Stock card has auto fan speed and everything's kind of set to where it is. So if we go back and look at our graphics card, you'll see everything's set to 12. The GPU clock is 1216, memory is here, boost is here, right? So you have 5 different profiles. So if I click 2 and I apply it, you can see the change happen, right? So there you have it. So before we get into Combustor, let's go over how I like to overclock based on the research I do. So now go ahead and put your power limit to the max. What that's going to allow is it's going to allow your graphics card to be able to draw more power to increase the core clock, the memory clock, etc. Now, a number one tip I like to do when overclocking is get rid of the auto fan temp. Go ahead and put it to at least 75 and apply it. I found the auto when overclocking is not that it's unsafe, but it's more safe to go ahead and have the fans running high to keep temperatures a little bit low. So go ahead and put that to 75. Put your power consumption to about 108 max. I would put it at max. Now, here's where we start overclocking. Okay, so with core clock and memory clock, I would say go ahead and start out at about 120-ish for your core clock and maybe 350 for your memory clock. And from there, go up in increments of anywhere from 10 to 25. Now remember, each time you increase this, you can either use the slider, but I recommend just going right in here and typing it in, hit enter, make sure you hit apply, and now save it. So now the profile is saved to 2. So once you make your increment, this is where you're going to do the testing. So we're going to run over here, and as you can see, there's multiple options. Now a burn-in is a really good way to test if it's going to be stable over a long period of time. So if you're going to be gaming for hours, you want to know if that overclock is going to be stable. Any of you who have overclocked before have experienced crashes. When you've got your settings too high, the game will crash, the drivers will fail, etc. So what I like to do is just a stress test. So now that we've made our increments, let's make sure we've got all our sensors ready, and it's going to log to the file, right? And let's run our stress test. Before I do that, go ahead and go to your settings in MSI Combustor, which is also a free download. I like to go ahead and put everything high, and match it to the resolution you're using. Let's go here, and then let's run the stress test for 1080p. So up here you've got your percentage. It's showing us our temperatures, although we can even monitor our temperatures here on Afterburner. And as well, let's look at our average temperature for this card. If you're an SLI, just switch over. As you can see, the card on top is always going to be a little bit hotter. But if you keep your fans set to that 75 or even higher once you start getting into more overclocking, it's going to keep your temps down. And this is you know, going to run all the way through until it's done. Doesn't take too long. And then what it'll do is it'll pop you right up to a page that talks about MSI Combustor. You can compare your scores here, etc., etc. So as you see, now we've got our score, and it'll give you your information and everything like that. Now, that's a little bit beyond the scope of what I want to do today. What I'm really trying to convey to you guys is just how to get a safe, good overclock. So we just ran that test, and everything went well. As you can see here, the test will fail if the overclock settings are too high. So let's bump this up to 190, and let's bump this up to 420. Why not? Remember, apply it. Okay. Go to our settings. And this is another stress test, so let's go ahead and run this. I recommend running this for about 15 to 30 minutes, even longer in some situations, but make sure you're monitoring now. You want to watch your temperatures and everything. You know, it's safe. I'd say, you know, if you see something getting around 70 degrees Celsius, that's a little high. That's higher than I would like to run. 60 is where I like to be comfortable at. And of course, remember, with our MSI After Burner, we can increase the fan speed even if we need to. So why not? Let's bump it up to 90. Apply it, and you'll see the temperatures drop in most cases. So do this after you apply your overclock. And if you look over here at Combustor, you can monitor everything that's going on as well. So again, this is just another example of a test, so we'll go ahead and exit out of that. So that's the basic idea of it, guys, is you want to do increments of about 10 to 20 here until you get to as high as possible without crashing. Now, keep in mind, the highest possible without crashing could possibly decrease the life of your graphics cards, but in my experience, what I like to do is find that level medium. So my overclock that I run with my SLIs is right here, 170, and this at 420, right? And I keep that at 75. So I don't overclock. I don't use this overclock on every game. Now, on more graphic-intensive games, yes, I do. For example, let's say I'm playing The Division or Rainbow Six Siege 2, something like that, Just Cause 3, then yeah, I'll throw that overclock on because I'm usually going to be running in 2K, and I will see a good performance increase. Now, again, after you do your increments, make sure you're doing your burn-in test. Now, why I say this is because you want to make sure it's stable and it's safe. And if you have your settings too high, you'll start to see artifacts. You'll know, or it'll just crash. Like I said, I only use my overclock profiles for certain games that need it. Main thing overall, keep an eye on your temperatures. And other than that, it's relatively safe. As far as voltage goes, I'm not going to get too much into this video. Actually, I'm not going to get into this video because I want this to be a more basic guide. So again, get MSI After Burner, get GPU-Z and Combustor, monitor your temperatures, increase your overclock in little amounts at a time, and then run the benchmarks tests, run the stress tests. And from there, after you get a good benchmark overclock in place, pull up the game you're using, get something like Fraps, and check the frames per second. See how it works without and with the overclock. See which kind of performance increase you're getting. Is the overclock worth it? In some cases, if you're really overclocking the hell out of your cards and you're only getting the 10 frames per second or 20 frames, 20 is okay, 10 frames per second increase, that's not really worth the extra stress on your card. So that's why there's so much testing and time that has to go into overclocking. But in the end, it is absolutely worth it when it comes to games that require a little bit extra performance. Now I've got my GTX SLI'd to perform close to the Titan as far as FPS with certain games with proper overclocking. Now I'm not a professional overclocker by any means, but once you overclock a few cards and you go through the trial and errors and you crash a few cards, and there's nothing wrong with having your graphics card crash, you just start to learn more. And then, like I said, the cool thing about MSI After Burner is you've got your profiles, right? So I've got my normal profile that is very stable. I can game for hours on it, and I know I'm okay. And then over here, I've got my really high overclock, which has been stable, but at times it still does crash. So I've got a bit more tweaking to do with it, right? That's really all there is to it for starting out with overclocking. So I'm going to leave you guys at that. As always, please monitor your temperatures. Be safe when overclocking. Know that it can be unsafe if you are not being smart about it. You can ruin your card. So just pay attention and you should be fine. Don't be scared to overclock. It's really very common nowadays. These companies, they're producing graphics cards and CPUs to be overclocked. They know people are overclocking, so it's normal. So don't be scared, but at the same time, don't be stupid. So we'll leave it at that. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. The channel's been growing pretty well lately, so I appreciate all the support from all you guys. If you guys have any questions, anything like that, any recommendations, like I said, I'm still not a pro. Please leave them down in the comments. I'd love to hear anything like that. So with that said, guys, take care.